here's our old setup. It held 280,000 bushels of grain. The bin sizes ranged from 6,000 bushels all the way up to 80,000 bushels. We ran 3 easy dry dryers, and we could do, on a good day, about 3,000 bushels an hour. Our main bottleneck was dry capacity for the most part, and a little bit of wet holding capacity, but with the top dries, we could mix and match, and we usually made things work. So really the only bottleneck was dry capacity storage. We had plans to add an overhead loadout to the setup and also replace a couple bins and put up a bigger bin, probably around a 200 to 220,000 bushel capacity. If that plan would have went through, we would have totaled about 450,000 bushels of capacity. But then tragedy struck. So, what do we do now? Well, what happens when empires fall? They rebuild. Now, when something like this happens, you don't get many chances to restart something as big as this. So, you know the old saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And as Eminem once said, if you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? We weren't going to let it slip. We're going big. We ain't going home. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Area 21. Here's the blueprints for Area 21. So we went for a much more streamlined, simple layout compared to our old setup. As you can see, everything is in a line, a lot easier to manage, and a lot easier to expand. This whole site was built for expansion. Yes, right now this is a pretty large site, but you never know what the future may hold, so we wanted to aim for, expansion. The two bins on the left are 60-foot diameter bins. 19 rings tall, and they will hold about 180,000 bushels each. The bin towards the top of the screen is our wet bin, which is a 36-foot diameter bin, also 19 rings tall, and it'll hold approximately 60,000 bushels of storage. The dryer will be tucked behind the wet bin in the leg. It's a soak-up mixed flow dryer, and it'll dry 4,000 bushels an hour at 5 points of moisture. We have two legs, a wet leg and a dry leg. The wet leg is 10,000 bushels per hour, and the dry leg is 7,000 bushels per hour. For unloading, we have two side draws on the big bins, and they'll be able to empty about a third of the capacity out of those bins, and that's all electricity free, all gravity, so that saves a little bit of money on electrical expenses. And then as for other unloading, we have an overhead bin over the dump there, and it's going to hold about 3,000 bushels, I think. So that'll be really nice to have for emptying out the rest of the bins. We've always wanted an overhead bin, and this is going to be awesome. So our dump pit is going to be a double dump pit. So it'll have two hoppers, and we'll pull the semi over, and you'll be able to open up both hoppers and dump. So we'll be able to pull up and not have to move the truck to dump. Now, the other alternative was to do a full, 1,000 bushel pit. We kind of steered away from that. We didn't want to go that deep into the ground. We knew we would run into water issues, so we decided to go with the shallower pit, the double dump, and by specifications, we should be able to dump a truck in 6 minutes, which is about twice as fast as we could before. So, all good. Last but certainly not least, we decided to go with a 30-foot wide by 90-foot building over the dump and housing the overhead bin. The reason we did this is to keep water out of everything. Everything's nice inside, so if it's raining outside, we can unload. And really, the main reason we did this was to have some extra storage capacity for semis in the off season, because we'll be able to park two semis in there, and we can leave them in there, and we'll always be hauling grain out, so they'll always be moving. So at the end of the night, we'll be able to just park the truck there and head out the next morning. So all in all, we'll be able to hold about 425,000 bushels. And as far as financial things, insurance covered about 2/3 of it, which would have covered about the cost to replace our old setup. But we knew, we're aiming towards the future. We wanted a better setup, so about a third of the money's out of pocket, and we knew that, and we were planning on doing it anyways to the old setup. So it was all kind of a blessing in disguise that we weren't having to cobble job old stuff into new stuff. We got all new now, all fresh. So it's kind of a relief and kind of nice, actually. Some of you might be wondering, why do we do this? Why do we store grain? Well, there's usually a typical seasonal pricing pattern, but with corn, and in the fall, prices are the lowest. So if we were to deliver it to the co-op, we would have to either sell it right away or pay for storage. And their storage rates are a lot more expensive than what it costs to put up a bin site, over a long period of time. So what we are able to do, we can store our grain and we can hold it out until prices get better, basis improves, and we end up making more money, and the bin site's ROI is much better than if we took everything to the co-op. Another very important factor that sometimes you don't really think about with a bin site is the ease of harvest. We don't have to wait at lines at the co-op. The co-ops are, a little further from our farms. Everything's close to home. So it's a lot more efficient during harvest to have our own bin site. We can get stuff done on our own terms. We don't have to wait for anybody. Just makes everything a lot easier. One last thing to note is this site will only hold corn. We don't store commercial soybeans. We like to sell them in the fall to have cash flow. Otherwise, all of our corn is here and we hold it throughout the year. So we don't have any cash flow during the fall. and a lot of unexpected expenses come up, repairs, and then we have a lot of labor costs in the fall. Some landlords like their rent, so it's really nice to just sell the soybeans and have cash flow. However, we do have to store seed beans because the companies that we grow them for have to come and get them, usually in the winter, and then they take them off and do whatever they do to get them ready for seed next spring. We have a lot of smaller grain bins on different farms, different building sites that we store the seed beans in. So they will never come to Area 21 unless we do an expansion and add a bin for beans. But I doubt it, but you never know. So guys, I think that about covers everything. I'll be posting, updates throughout the summer and throughout the fall. So hopefully this thing is fully operational before fall. It's supposed to be. So I think they're going to start putting bins up here pretty quick. We'll have a lot of cool drone footage. So thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video. I hope I explained things okay. It can be kind of hard talking over voiceover, but hey, do what you got to do. So anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the funnies.